It is now 1 o'clock, and we have the minister in our sights, so we will start. Are you as surprised as I am to see me up here? Okay. So after the opening prayer, I am the new president. I'll be serving for a year, and after the prayer, we will have the introduction of the new board members and officers. So Tim, if you had 2 seconds to settle in, would you like to start with an opening prayer?
Let's take a deep breath. I don't know about you, but I've been on the run since a long time. So it feels good just to take a deep breath, center into the presence. We know right now that that presence leads us. We don't have to fight or push or anything because the presence is in control and leading all that we do, all that we say, and all the ways we go about it. We lift up our officers, Joanne, Debbie, Kathy, Thomas, Jerry, Marcia. We lift up Joanne as her sister made her transition this morning. We surround Joanne and her family in love and in light, knowing Spirit is in charge. We surround and fill this entire gathering with the presence and the peace that is God. And we give thanks. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Lytle, for that prayer, and also for stopping any rumors for people wondering why the board president isn't here on Easter. So I probably will have to fly to the mainland and will probably not be here for Easter. So I would like to introduce the other officers. Continuing as vice president is Thomas Gallagher, whom I will rely on heavily. And continuing as secretary is Debbie Catania. There's nothing like a stellar secretary. Kathy Whitmire is continuing as treasurer. Yay. Kathy is not here. She is spiritually rebooting. She called me last night. She had an opportunity to go to a spiritual garden on the North Shore. And so I said, boy, that sounds like a wonderful opportunity. So she has sent her report down, and her assistant treasurer, because we now have assistant treasurers, Marcia Bethards will be giving the report. Yay. The assistant secretary is Jerry Denton. For those of you who know Jerry, assistant secretary is the perfect position for Jerry. So just to report briefly what we've been up to. Since we did the election, we have been focusing on the senior minister evaluation. Most of you know that we surveyed darn near everybody. We surveyed the congregation, we surveyed some of the members, we surveyed the volunteers, we surveyed the staff. So yesterday we spent time going through those surveys and the comments and pulling together goals for the next year and so on and so forth. So that's where we are in the process. And then in about roughly 2 weeks, we will be meeting with Tim to go over that evaluation and work together on setting goals and so on and so forth. So that's where we are in that process. One of the things that came out strongly in that process is the need for us to do congregational building. And we need to always remember that we may be leading, but it's the congregation that makes this church. You are the ones that make it thrive. You are the ones that keep it healthy, and we need your support. Later on, you will be hearing from the treasurer about where we are financially, so that's one opportunity to serve. You heard during the service about the volunteers that we need for time as well. So please embrace this church even more than before to keep us vital and maintaining and growing. At the next meeting that we have, which will be on April 5th, that's why we made the announcements. We had originally scheduled it for the week before, so we wanted to make it very clear that that date has changed. And on April 5th will be the continuation of the March meeting, and that is when we'll begin to start appointing some of the standing committees. Now, with the bylaws passing, there will be 6 committees, so listen to which one appeals to you so that you'll know which ones you'd like to serve on. Facilities, finance, fundraising, membership, policy, and strategic planning. So like I said, find what aligns with you, and if there's any interest, show up either on April 5th, where we'll start the appointments, or April 19th, where we will continue to round up and make additional appointments to the committees. And with that, we're even early. Marcia, are you prepared to do our financial report? Okay, our assistant treasurer, Marcia. I don't think anybody does, so that's okay. We've got plenty of time. We're already 8 minutes ahead of schedule, so.
Good afternoon, everyone. I like keeping things very brief, okay? So I'm filling in for Kathy Whitmire, and does everybody have one of these now? Okay, good. This, what you have in front of you is, it shows our income and expenses for the month compared with the budget, and also compared with February of last year, to give you an idea of how it was last year and this year. Okay, so the top column are the revenues, and if you look at it for this year, we got $31,449.10. Last year, we got $29,653.63. So we did a little good this year, huh? Yay! Now, the expenses. The expenses are a little bit different. This year was $45,074.79. Last year, it was $39,018.85. So there is a little bit of an increase, a little variance there, you would see. February's income was below budget by $9,570, but it was still about $2,000 more than our income from February of last year. Most of the shortfall was in donations at Sunday services and credit card donations. One reason may be that our senior minister was traveling during February and was only here for one Sunday. But it also shows that we need to increase our income to support the expense budget for the year. We are looking forward to increased donations as we prepare for Holy Week and our Easter service next Sunday. Woo. Our budget for this year plans for covering all of our expenses and rebuilding our reserves. And that would be the end of this reporting. And if you have any questions, yeah, we can email the president, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Kathy indicated in her email that if you have any questions, feel free to email her or me. Mine is jmadamsesq@gmail.com. Or you can reach us at board at unityhawaii.org. Make sure it's org. For a while I was sending it to com and getting nowhere. So unityhawaii.org. Okay. The next board meetings, as I mentioned, beg your pardon. Now, drum roll please, the senior minister's report.
Thank you. A number of things continue to be on my radar. It's real important to me that we be a mission-focused organization. Sometimes it's easy for us to get lost in some of the details or some of the drama of things that happen. But I believe that everything we do needs to be focused around our mission, needs to be focused around our vision, and that all the decisions that we make need to center around that. So we need to ask ourselves as a board, as leaders, as ushers, as congregants, whatever it is we do, we need to ask ourselves, how is this serving our mission? How is this serving our vision? It is really important to me in this coming year to focus on that we are here to assist in the spiritual transformation, co-creative relationships, and sacred service of all people, and that we are here to help people have a realization of oneness. That is what we're about. It's consciousness. And so in everything we do, even if it's dealing with some details of things that we're trying to work out, I want us as a board, as a community, as leaders to all work together and stay centered around that. Some things that I'm real interested in focusing on more in this coming year are our youth department. I hope soon to give you a report as to who has been selected to fill the space that was previously Deja Vu. I hope to also give you a report soon about the person who will be replacing the position that Judy Sweet was in. So stay tuned. Those are just right around the corner, okay? But continue to lift up our church. And one of the things that's real important to me is that place over there where Deja Vu was, that it not only be used in a way that is consistent with our mission, but that it also produces income, and that it can be secondarily used as a space for our youth and other meetings, so that we will have a special space reserved for that. I am very interested in growth of this church. So in this coming year, I'm really, really wanting to focus more and more on growing our church. And again, if there are things that we are doing that in any way interfere with that growth, I want us to closely look at that and align ourselves with the mission of growth and mission of reaching new people. Following the service, you may see me running around. I'm chasing all the people with the brown kukui netlay, and I'm talking to everyone else. To me, it's real important to make that connection. And it's important to me that all of us make that connection. When they go down to breakfast or wherever you see them, please let them know that they are an integral part of this church. Another important area of church growth is our love streamers, and I want to thank you, love streamers, for being a part of this church. I have seen a lot of different countries that have become love streamers. I have seen wonderful numbers of people that are viewing us online, hundreds of people who are viewing us online. And I am so grateful for that opportunity. I am going on memory because I could not find my reports. But here's what I remember seeing from Sean's report. There were over 5,000 views on our YouTube channel. We're reaching out to a lot of people. And the United States is first and foremost where most of the people are viewing us from. The second largest group is from India. And then there's other countries after that. There's a number of countries. In terms of our Facebook videos and live streaming and things that we do on Facebook, in a month's time, we have over 7,000 views. So there's a lot of people we're reaching that we haven't even gotten to physically meet yet. But I know that they are more and more becoming a part of this congregation. Again, to me, it's very important for us to be focused and centered around our mission and our vision in the ways that we could do business and in the business that we're focusing on so that we can really grow. Because I want other people to see the light that this place is. So there are a number of other things I was going to report on. When I find my report, I'll let you know about it. But I'm so grateful to be here. It's hard for me to believe that it's been a year since I came. It's hard to believe that all the things that have occurred in this last year and the adjusting process. And what I'm absolutely convinced of is my love for all of you, my sense of calling to be here. It's not always easy. Many times it's not. But what I do know is that Spirit is doing an amazing new work here. Spirit is going to assist all of us in growing and reaching new heights. And I know with this board that we will reach greater and greater heights. I thank you for the privilege of serving. Thank you.
Yeah, being called doesn't always mean an easy path, that's for sure. I remember thinking one time when I was a child, it finally occurred to me as an adult, we all grew up with fairy tales. No one lives happily ever after unless they first slay a dragon. So if you ever get discouraged, just remember that. There is a happily ever after. Okay, this next section is called Let's Chat. And what I'd like to do, in each of our town halls is provide an opportunity for, we used to call it Q&A, but this would be more of a chat. And one of the things today, all I want to do is say, let's chat about whether you'd like to chat. And if you'd like to chat, should we change the chairs so that they're in a circle at that point in time? Should we always have the meeting in a circle? And particularly, what kinds of things would you like to chat about? And I don't think that I don't want to imply that chat means it's going to only be light things. One person suggested to me that he thinks what we should do next, we've surveyed a lot about the minister, maybe we should now put out a survey on the board. So that was one suggestion. I have thought about, Reverend Tim said he's very interested in growing the church. Maybe one of the topics we should talk about is how do we grow the church? What are some ideas? So those are just a couple to prime the pump. I want to now hear from you. what are some of the things that you would like to chat about in upcoming sessions as a congregation? Okay? Don't get shy now.
I think we might start by asking Jerry, who, as I remember many years ago, that Jerry was instrumental in helping us grow our young people's program. And I know that that's one of the things that Reverend Tim is interested in doing. And perhaps Jerry might have some suggestions or ideas how we can do it again.
Oh, I'll repeat then. She was saying she'd hear from Jerry Denton about how to grow the young people's program, because that was indicated by Tim as one of his goals. Okay, anybody else? Jack? Randall?
My thought for chatting, this church always has a difficult time getting volunteers. And we do a good job, I think, of really making aware in the bulletins and at Sunday service that there's a need for this type of service. I think chatting about volunteers, those of us who volunteer in one form or another, such as groundskeeping, which we added one new person last week, you have a sense of maybe those who volunteer chatting about what it is they feel and get out of, and reasons for that, as a way to perhaps solicit more interest in people saying, you know, that does sound good. And especially if you see the people that you would be volunteering with, because in the groundskeeping, we have very close relationships. We had a really meaningful relationship with J.R. Coleman, who I knew for many years, and J.R. passed on recently, as most of you know, and it formed a bond, literally, with him and others that do this work on Saturday, that I think could be present in any form of volunteering. I think it'd be great to chat about it in a positive way.
President, congregation, this is a possible of possibilities. Once upon a time, when I was a young church member, maybe 10 years ago or so, our current reverend then was Reverend Sky St. John. We all had the pleasure of singing in his choir, and we flourished. Music and food binds us together. I can quickly say one of the members that I enjoyed singing with, we had a full soprano, alto, tenor, bass. Jan Fitzgerald sang in the choir. JR sang in the choir. And there's so many. And then, of course, Sky left. And then we were orphans as a church. Then we were lucky to have Jack. So he revived that. And we found life in that. So that is a possible of possibilities. We can dream about it.
Sure. He was saying that since he started coming when Sky St. John was here, we had a choir periodically, and that, if I know you recall, transformed just slightly into a gospel choir when Jack was here. So maybe it's time to revive a choir. Robin?
Thank you. What about on movie nights, have a potluck beforehand and then maybe a discussion afterwards on the potluck? On the movie afterwards.
We can chat about that.
I think it would be nice if we could take a poll or something of what are people's favorite parts of the service, or what parts do they possibly think could change a little. Just some thoughts, because a lot of the congregants we've lost, we've gained. But why is that? I mean, whenever there's a change, there's always going to be a change in people, and a lot have go on or have started online. But I think it would be nice to find out what would be the sellers, quote unquote, for maybe the service. What are we doing the same or different that is either repelling or drawing people in?
Great suggestion. Anyone not hear that? Okay, any more?
I have one.
Okay, great, Juliet.
I remember way back we had book studies, and we would choose a book, or somebody would choose a book, and there'd be a group, and we'd come and read chapters and then talk about it. And that group always was very close, and it was meaningful because the books were obviously spiritually based.
Great.
Tony's
Course
saying
in
Course in
Miracles.
Miracles.
I saw a hand somewhere. Pat?
I had a couple of things. One, actually having, how about a bunch of us get together and create, not a poll, but a list of things. What would make you enthusiastic about coming to Unity? What things could we have available for folks that they think is missing, like either classes, book, having a book study, something that you miss, especially for people who have been members and have drifted away. What are things that you miss that you'd like to have come back again? Maybe and have people fill it out, have it as an insert in a program for a couple of weeks or so, and see what people want. Maybe there's something that would bring people back or more often. The second thing is, it's more of a question, and it could be a discussion, is after Sky passed, did the church grieve properly? Did they talk about it? Did people share what was in their heart, how they felt? Do they feel that grieving period actually took place? And if not, can that happen?
Okay. I know there were some grief classes offered, but I do think it's worth talking about again. Okay.
Well, I miss Deja Vu because I'm a bargain shopper, and I would volunteer to man a table before, I don't know about both services, but on Sunday mornings to sell raffle tickets. You folks are so generous. You have jewelry, you have vases, you have, nice pieces of clothing, whatever, that if you would donate them, we could sell raffle tickets, $5 a piece, and then once a month, and we'd only pull a raffle ticket once a month, so it's not a burden on anybody time-wise, but it would be another few dollars. I would buy a ticket, so you made $5 already, yeah? Yeah? So anyway, as I say, I like bargains, and I bet you lots of folks do here. Deja Vu made lots of money for us, as I understand it. So anyway, I'm on board for that.
I would like the congregation and the board, mainly the board though, to discuss ways that they can give building blocks to Reverend Tim to build a support for his staff. Because the church has been working without a facilities person for a long time. And we've lost Judy Sweet. We'll gain a new what was her title? Steward of Church Operations. But I don't believe that the staff can go on without a facilities person. Thank you for John's assistance and his employment, but the staff has gotten more duties added onto their plate, and I believe that the church administrator does not need to be, cleaning gutters, running the sump pump, steam washing the courtyard and walls and whatever, in addition to all the other duties that she has at the current moment. I believe that we've been running so long without a facilities manager that is just taken for granted, that all the staff can handle it. And the only indication that we would know is if they said they couldn't handle it, right? But they have such big hearts and they want to work, so hard for us, for this church, for our Ohana. I just know it's not in Judy's and Lisa's hearts, to say we can't. They're just gonna push themselves until they burn out and we lose another, staff position. So please help Reverend Tim, help his staff.
Okay. And I would like to roll that into the larger question of how can we integrate volunteers into the things that need to be done more efficiently and effectively.
Yeah.
Or the opposite is to raise money to pay somebody, but we have to look at both avenues.
Yes, because we've been asking for volunteers for handy persons, and ultimately that's really the way that Lisa would like to go. But we just haven't, gotten any nibbles on that. So, so you're right. We have to go either way.
Okay.
I was just going to sit back and listen to other people's suggestions and thoughts, but to kind of feed off of a couple of things that have been brought up. It's been brought up twice today about the passing of Reverend Sky. And something that I sometimes wonder about chatting about is there, and this is a more general thing, is there the need for more healing to occur in this church? Whether it's grief, whether it is past, a sense of past things that happened or traumatizing circumstances that happened here. Would it be worthwhile to have a dialogue, to have a talk, conversation together about what, if anything, needs to be healed here, and how do we go about bringing that healing?
Robin?
Well, to answer Tim's question, one is the talking stick, which we had before. Eric facilitated that before, and it was a really good process. And then on a lighter note, what if we have game night like bingo once a month? And just some games that people would want to have fun, okay? Because, and nothing that we're charging for, okay? I mean, just have people donate some things. They can go through their house and, oh yeah, they had this thing, and they're like, oh yeah, what am I going to do with it? We can wrap it and give it away as a prize, okay? And I mean, we could even go around and get people to donate, maybe across the street, South Shore Grill, to donate $20. I mean, there's just different ways, but let's not charge things. I think we kind of got burnout on all that fundraising stuff that had happened before. So let's just bring it back where, if people come and have fun, they're going to start giving on Sunday.
Ellen, did you still have your hand up? No.
I'm dovetailing what Robin said, that Jack and Chuck Phelps were gracious enough
I'm sorry,
to.
hold your mic a little bit
Okay,
closer.
better?
Much better.
I'm always afraid to speak loud, so I better start learning too. Oh, so I was saying, I'm dovetailing what Robin said, that Jack and Chuck Phelps were gracious enough to have a seminar. We met and we studied the grieving. We had a process and to work out the grieving about Reverend Sky's passing. I think some of you remember that class we held in the chapel.
I'd like to say that, dovetailing on what you said, if we have something like that where people can come, it may squash a lot of rumors and a lot of bad feelings about some of the things that were passed around after that happened. And that would be a huge healing, I think, in my eyes.
And I also think, even though we don't think of it in this way, Jack Bomar's departure was also very sudden, which to me was also a grieving process. And because it wasn't a death, I don't think we really addressed it as a grieving process. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And anger, as we know, she said there was a lot of anger around those two events, and anger is the first stage of grief. So, okay, any more? Oh, Jerry. Oh, I'm sorry, do we have one? Rodney? Oh, good, Rodney, hi.
On the theme that Tim is looking at, I think we need to begin targeting total strangers that do not know unity and do not even know that this is a church on this corner. For example, one method that could be done is a pet blessing. What if the pet blessing was done at the dog park? How many people at the dog park would know where unity would be after that? Okay. The other thing is, approach all the businesses and hotels with the theme that we would like to help you. We would like you to give us a weekend in your hotel for free, and we will give it away, but it will be on a general announcement to every member in the congregation who gave that to us. Now, the person that is in charge of marketing for the hotel or businesses is going to look at that from a business standpoint. Hey, that's a good idea. We're going to reach hundreds of people, and they're not even a quarter mile away from us. The other thing is minimizing cost. Not finding ways to cover cost, but to minimize cost. For example, the Sunday Bulletin. Does it have to be laser jet printed? Can it be inkjet printed at 1/10 of the cost? Hewlett Packard Printers has a program called Instant Ink. I pay $6 for 100 pages every month, and I can print it in solid color. My printer sends the status of my ink cartridge to Hewlett Packard. When it begins to get low, they mail me new cartridges at no cost to me. My total cost per month is $6 a 100 pages. Now, what if you started printing the bulletin in inkjet and it was $500, $50 a month? 5 times that, or 6 times that. Now you have a standard cost that would not change. For example, $60 a month for 600 pages. Now, if you approach a business or a hotel or any one of these businesses around here and say, we would like to help advertise your company, your business, it would only cost you $60 a month, and we will have your logo on every one of our bulletins every Sunday. Now, for $60 a month, to get that much publicity in any organization is unheard of. But what that does is it makes our printing costs zero. So that's the kind of things we need to look at. then how can we get things done by partnering with organizations? For example, the Honolulu Technical School has a carpentry place that they teach carpentry. Every other year, they used to build a small studio at the front of the school, and they would auction it off to make money for the school. Now, you think maybe if someone went down to the Honolulu Technical School and say, we have 400 feet of gutters that need to be installed, would you like to use that as one of your class training? See, that's the kind of things I'm looking at, is don't use the conventional method of doing things. Let's be a little different. How many Japan tourists go by here every day? Now, some of them may have watched us on the internet. What if you offered a cup of coffee to them as they walked past? That wouldn't cost much, but they would remember they were given something. See, the thing about the Oriental world is if you give them something, they feel they owe you something. So let's start giving, and so they'll start owing. Another method is all these people that are watching us internationally, what if you offer to give them a certificate they could print on their printer, and if they visited Hawaii and came to the church, they would get a free lunch? Would people talk about that? Oh, that's the kind of things I'm looking at. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very creative.
Sir, your words were very well received, and I think maybe what we should have is him or someone like him leading a dreaming or inspiration committee to come up with all of these outside-the-box ideas that we can then present to the staff and the senior minister. And I think I would be on a committee like that. I don't know if I could run it, but I'm one of those people, I always think outside the box, and I appreciate a lot of your ideas. They are very well received from me. So I think that might be something we look at, having a dreaming or an inspiration committee.
Okay, great.
I guess my question is, what's our intent to use this information for? I guess when I sat down, I saw we were going to do a Let's Chat. I thought perhaps we'd pick a couple of subjects and talk them through, but I stopped counting at 15 different ideas here as I look over at Debbie's shoulder. And they're all great ideas. I think they all have merit, and they all would take some time and some effort. What are we going to do with this information? How are we going to make good use of it so that we can find something tangible?
Okay. Well, as my Uncle Buddy used to always say, the first thing we're going to do is stand back and look at the situation. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is stand back and look at the list and see what we can consolidate into larger topics. I'm assuming if we're talking about monthly town halls, we need roughly 10 to 11 topics to see if that's possible. I'll bring some of it to the board and say how much of this should really be delegated to existing committees. I think a lot of Rodney's ideas would fit very neatly into the fundraising committee.
You know, I want to go back to something that Juliet Carlson brought up, and that was the small groups that we used to have. They were very powerful, and they built a very strong group of congregants and members. And I would think that, that's a kind of scenario where we could give some of these small informal groups some of these things to talk through themselves, thinking outside the box, outside of this arena, in fact.
Do we still have a volunteer coordinator?
Yes, it's Jade and Francine.
I serve on IHS. It's only once a month. It's serving dinner to homeless folks, a shelter. And the other, I go to 2 prisons. I've been doing that since 1987. And the hardest part is to get someone to say, not only, yes, I'd like to serve with you, but then to show up. I have lots of people call me all the time, say, oh, how do I get there? Where do I park? Blah, blah, blah. And that's the end of that. I never see them again. So the million-dollar question is, how do you motivate people to do what they say they're going to do or want to do or inspire them? And maybe there's a way that we can communicate with them. Maybe there's a software that can send them an email once a month, or, everybody's time is precious. Maybe there's not, like, I don't want to call everybody because it pisses me off. They say they're going to be there and then they're not. So I don't want to waste my time doing that. But if there's some kind of automatic reminder, that may help encourage with volunteer folks, and it's desperately needed.
And I think you're right. We could explore, I'm sure there are software packages that help match up needs with volunteers. I remember reading ages ago, I think they called it the Sun Bank out of Spain. They have such high inflation in Spain that they have started their own bank of, I will offer someone a ride, and someone will say, I'll offer you bread, and they link each other up, and they've got a whole official network of how to link up, going in a sense back to barter, but doing it with the technology involved, and we could do the same thing. Okay, Marcia?
Tony, I just want to agree with you about the volunteering. When I appreciate when people say they're going to volunteer and they show up, but then they find out right at that moment that that's not right for them. And I understand that. Or they promise you that they're coming and they don't show up. That's been my problem. But I want everyone to know that I have some angels doing the service, and one of them is Tony. She doesn't necessarily usher, but she's one of my standbys when I need help with the collection. And she's been doing it for years, and I really appreciate it and I'm putting the word out there. You don't have to usher during the service, but if I need help with the collection, that is very much appreciated. I really appreciate it.
Richard?
Volunteerism to me is, I think, a very good and integral part of a community, but the foundation of which is really about building the community itself. It's a situation where you have relationships and people will find and see things that may need to be done and just show up and do it. That to me is a very interesting part of volunteerism. Now I do understand the organizational side that is required, but there's a balance, and I'd like us to move into the balance where we're all feeling good about what we're doing. You help out if you can, when you can. It doesn't even have to be organized, like Marcia was just pointing to. People just step in. They can step in on one of those cameras back there. We've been advertising for a while. So there's a balance between that. But nobody, and maybe one of the reasons is that people kind of back away from it is, all right, well, it's hooks, it's commitments, it's this, it's that, it's the other. I can't speak for them. But there's a softer, I think, as effective way combined with that could be very helpful. And the foundation, again, to me, is building the community and building relationships. It will happen.
Yeah, Tony is saying she thinks that creates ownership too when they volunteer.
Thank you. Ownership, the thread. This is how I'm physically, emotionally, and always time-wise committed to this Ohana. Otherwise, you show up, you listen to a good, a sermon, and then you go home and about your business. But if you're connected in other ways, that's one more thread, yeah, and it's an important one.
I know I always enjoy volunteer work simply because when I come in a congregation setting, I don't really get to know people like I do when I'm in a committee. And that's how I get to know people. And that's why I love doing the Makahiki. I got to know so many people. Jan.
Following on the last three comments, I think you cannot overstate the importance of the personal touch. So I don't want to be an usher, but Marcia asked me to. I think a lot of things that are needed is like if you ask someone if they can do that, they're much more likely to do it than if you just say, we need people to do this, and they've got to walk up to you. So, yeah, and the same thing with, talking to people after services and, all of those kinds of things. When you, maybe to get people to go to the prison, you need to take them the first time because they're like scared, or, there's all kinds of possibilities, and sometimes you just got to hold somebody's hand a little bit so they get comfortable with what they're going to do.
Thank you. Okay, Sue?
I'm going to follow up on Jan's idea because I think our heads were connected here for a while. I have been president of two of my professional organizations for the last 20 years, off and on. And what we have found is if we want to grow our organization, we need to get volunteers to work on things. Jan knows she's been a recipient. I get her roped into things. I've been known to break a few arms. I have people going, no, here she comes. I know I'm going to get roped into something. But what we have found on two things. One thing is when our membership starts to fall, we have found that if, as board members or people of whatever, that if we call old members and we say, gee, we haven't seen you, we really miss you, we'd love to have you come back, maybe even have a Sunday that is going to be renewal Sunday of old friendships or something like that. But we have found that for us, it's membership, so therefore they didn't even realize their membership had lapsed and they hadn't paid attention, and all of a sudden they weren't getting the newsletters and blah, blah, blah. But by us calling them, and so as board members, what we've done is we would take like X number of names a month or a week or whatever it is, and we would call some people. And it could even be personal emails. We started doing this before there were ever emails. And the same thing is true on volunteerism. Is we found that calling people, if you can see them on Sunday and you can say, hey, I really would like to, like Marcia, I would be one of your backups. I wouldn't be a good usher because I don't get here on time, but I'll be a backup. But that personal touch that Jan is talking about is very, very important because that's how I have always built my committees. And when I left office, the board decided to just do everything themselves, and our membership fell from like 160 to like 70 people. And so just a thought of that personal touch with people. And it doesn't have to be a big thing, even to have a few people who are volunteers that, are in the congregation who are, it's their job to target the visitors, or their job to, you've got your Saturday morning thing. So the Saturday people that are doing that they go say, hey, we'd love to have you join us. I have no green thumb, and to get down on my knees would not be good, but there are other things. Like I'd love to be in the office, but with my work schedule, it doesn't work. And so, thoughts.
Okay. We are now pretty much nearing the end of this. So if there's one final one, otherwise we'll go ahead and move into the closing prayer. Thank you all for all your contributions. Alan, you had one final thought?
Okay. That
Vern,
what you've
sorry.
been saying about the personal touch really is important. And to add to that, my late husband and I were members of a lot of nonprofit groups and church groups and things like that. And we would volunteer for lots of things. And the groups we volunteered with were very friendly when we were out doing whatever the volunteer work was. And then we would invite some of the people we worked with over for dinner, or invite them out to dinner, or things like that, or to go to the beach. And but they didn't have any once except for when we were volunteering, they didn't have the time of day for us. So that the people in the groups need to show their appreciation, not just by thanking them for being there, but associating and being friends outside of that.
Okay. One more, that's it.
All right.
When I say that's it. You ask Bev.
Okay. All right. What about if we make a directory and then we can see where people live? And then also, like, if there's people that need rides that haven't been coming, we could say, hey, we'll pick you up on the way or something. So anyways, I just was thinking of a directory so that we can get to know the people more so.
Okay. Terrific. Okay, I want to thank everybody for these wonderful contributions. I knew once we get going that we could probably go for hours, but so I appreciate it. I have tremendous faith in this congregation and the talent that we have here, and I have tremendous faith in our minister. So please give us a closing prayer. Oh, can we circle for the closing prayer and then we can weave?
All right. Let's circle up. It's a good group of people. What a beautiful group of people. Can we connect? I see a disconnect. Can we merge? Can we get together? There we go. All right, thank you. Let's take a deep breath. We bless each one in this group, and we bless all the people of our congregation who are here physically or virtually. We know for each one the highest and best in their lives. And we know that this church is being propelled forward in some amazing ways. We open ourselves to that propulsion, knowing that Spirit is doing a mighty and new work here. We bless this time and we bless this community. We give thanks, and together we say, and so it is. Amen. Amen. Weave us together. Weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together. Weave us together in unity and love. One more time. Weave us together. Weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together. Weave us together in unity and love. Yay.